So the Chiefs pulled it off again, having one of the best drafts in the entire NFL despite picking at the ends of all these rounds. Combine that with pieces they brought in during free agency, and the NFL should be legit concerned about how the Chiefs roster is shaping up. I'll break all that down and more in today's video, so let's talk about it. But first, how about those? Alright, first up, it looks like the Chiefs are projected to be awarded an extra draft pick for the 2026 NFL draft. It cost them a 5th round pick in 2025 in order to get this. It's a projection, but still, they should be getting it. And it's at least something. It is from the DeAndre Hopkins trade. KC gave up a 5th round pick in order to get him before the trade deadline. And then obviously he was a free agent this offseason, signing with the Ravens, and per Over the Cap, it looks like the Chiefs should be awarded a 7th round pick for him, considering the deadline for the NFL compensatory free agent formula was this past Monday. And before I take a quick glance over the total draft picks the Chiefs will have at this point in time for 2026, compensatory picks are awarded to NFL teams that lose more or better players in free agency than they acquired during the previous offseason. And while they can be awarded anywhere between a 3rd and a 7th round pick, it's all decided by a formula featuring a few different factors. But since the Chiefs didn't really address losing DeAndre Hopkins in free agency, they should at least get a little something in return, which is most likely going to be a 7th round pick once all is said and done. They actually lost Justin Watson as well to the Texans, but outside of bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown on 1-year deals, they drafted Jalen Royals in the 4th round, and we are running it back with the hopes that Rashee Rice and Hollywood both stay healthy. If they're able to do that, it's a very solid wide receiver room, at least in my opinion. Now, that means for the 2026 NFL draft, we don't know exactly when they will be picking. The better you do, the later you pick. We already know this, but the Chiefs are going to have a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and 2 7ths. That extra 7th being the projected compensatory pick from DeAndre Hopkins. And then it's worth noting that KC traded away one of their 2 2026 4th round picks for Noel Williams, their 3rd round pick that they traded up 10 slots to go and get. They traded away Joe Thuney to the Bears for that 2nd 2026 4th round pick that they used. And whether or not that whole process was worth it, trading Joe Thuney away and then using that to move up 10 spots in the 3rd, remains to be seen. I get why they traded Joe Thuney away, though. His cap hit was like $26 million, and then Trey Smith's cap hit was just a few million less than that on the franchise tag. So you trade away the 33-year-old guard, who is still elite but aging, and are instead betting on the 25-year-old right guard's future. Well, I hope 2 things happen from all this. 1, a long-term deal gets done with Trey Smith before the July 15th deadline. VIDS said that will be their priority after the draft. And then 2, Noel Williams becomes who I hope he can be in Steve Spagnuolo's system. Having one of the best defensive backs coaches in the NFL in Dave Merritt certainly helps his case. And to be honest here, I think Noel Williams is my favorite draft pick out of the entire 2025 Chiefs draft class. He is the definition of a playmaker. He not only led the FBS with 7 interceptions last year, housing one of them, but had 15 passes defensed, played almost every single game the last 3 years, loves to tackle, is a great run defender, and can even return kickoffs. How can you not be happy about this pick? The Chiefs' last few 3rd round picks were as follows: Noel Williams, Wanye Morris, Leo Chanel, Lucas Niang, and Colin Saunders. This is no disrespect to any of those guys. I mean, I like Leo Chanel a lot. Colin Saunders was a dog as well, but Noel could shape up to be the best 3rd round pick the team has drafted since Kareem Hunt back in 2017. Obviously, there's a bit of projection involved here, as is every team's draft grades. We will never know how to properly and accurately grade a draft pick for at least a couple of years. Let's take last year, for example. The Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy, Kingsley Suamataia, Jared Wiley, Jaden Hicks, Hunter Norzad, Kamal Hadden, and CJ Hansen. Well, if we were to grade those guys solely on their rookie year, we can say that Kamal Hadden was a miss since he's no longer with the team. That's an easy one. Then, of course, Xavier Worthy and Jaden Hicks are the 2 definite hits, but it's still way too small of a sample size. Hicks is going to play a much bigger role this season anyway, and if Worthy's 2nd year in the league looks anything like the back half of his rookie year, he's going to go nuclear. But then to say Kingsley Suamataia, Jared Wiley, Hunter Norzad, and CJ Hansen are all busts after just 1 year, it's just too soon to tell. I mean, what if Kingsley actually becomes a serviceable left guard after all? That's a win in my book. Then what if Jared Wiley becomes an impactful tight end 2 over the next few years? Or Hunter Norzad is in the team's new Nick Allegretti as a Swiss Army knife depth piece along the offensive line. You simply never No. With that out of the way, though, most of the NFL agrees that the Chiefs absolutely crushed this year's draft upon initial review. If you base the draft capital used versus expected based off of the big consensus board, the Chiefs were third, only behind the Browns and the Cardinals. The Browns obviously skyrocketed up there because they took Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, and then the Cardinals got cornerback Will Johnson with their 47th pick in the 2nd when he was projected to potentially go top 15. He, of course, fell because of a knee injury, but still, that's a good value there. The Chiefs also got good value when they drafted Josh Simmons in round 1 without even needing to trade up for him, and he is also coming back from a pretty significant knee injury himself. But for the Chiefs to be third on this list when they drafted the end of nearly every round is quite impressive. Sure, they had that very early 3rd round pick due to the L'Jarius Sneed trade. That's where they selected defensive end Ashton Gillotte, but the rest were at the ends of all these rounds. For the most part, it just means KC stayed disciplined, stuck to their board, and remained calculated with when they did move up, not reaching too far. Then look at this. Renee Bugner, I hope I said the name right, but shout out to him. He put together this chart that featured 24 evaluations of the 2025 NFL Draft and their grades, and then averaged out those grades like a GPA. These grades featured heavy hitters from people like NFL.com, CBS Sports, PFF, PFN, The Ringer, ESPN, Fox Sports, and the list goes on. Well, the Chiefs' lowest grade was a C- from Thor Nystrom, and he really only did that because of the perceived risk of taking Josh Simmons coming off of injury. But once you averaged out everybody's grades, the Chiefs were the 4th highest on there, only behind the New England Patriots, New York Giants, and Seattle Seahawks. If you were curious about the rest of the AFC West, the Raiders graded out as 6th, the Chargers were 23rd, and the Broncos were 24th. I also found it slightly humorous that the Bengals came in dead last, 32nd, as they desperately need to hit on as many of those defensive picks they took as possible if they want a chance at making the playoffs this year, because that defense was god-awful last year. But I digress. The point is, the fact that the Chiefs drafted so well, with that also being the average consensus around the NFL, really means bad news for the rest of the league. In 2024, they cycled through 4 left tackles, lost their wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, running back 1, and cornerback 2 for most of the season due to injury, yet still made it to the Super Bowl. Then in free agency, they are running a lot of the roster back, but upgraded 2 very key position groups that really hindered them in 2024. All right, real quick, I want to shout out a couple ways you can support the channel. You can get some HBTC coffee of Benchwarmer Brew. This has got origin notes of Mexico and Ethiopia, a smooth medium roast, and it is one of the most popular blends of the lineup. Then you can also snag some HBTC merch. We've got Dad Bod Season, X Factor in honor of Dante Hall, mixed with Xavier Worthy, of course, and much more. Links to both the coffee and merch are in the description down below. They are doing all they can to secure the left tackle spot by signing Jalen Moore to a 2-year deal and drafting a guy that would have been a top 10 to top 15 pick this year, pre-injury, in Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. So the O-line got better for sure at the left tackle spot, and then so did the cornerback room by quite a bit. I truly believe the defense as a whole took a step back because of the cornerback room, as well as safety Chamari Connor playing in the slot and not really thriving there. They traded away Sneed, but then Jalen Watson went down for nearly the entire season with that broken ankle, leaving the cornerback room pretty thin outside of Trent McDuffie. Combine that with Connor again struggling in the slot and Nick Bolton's weakness being in coverage at times, and opposing teams could just identify matchups pre-snap with their quarterback intentionally targeting the middle of the field or any cornerback that lined up opposite Trent McDuffie. The coverage declined so badly, it also affected the pass rush's ability to get home to the QB. Spags could even send extra rushers, but again, opposing quarterbacks could basically throw F-it balls to whoever Trent McDuffie was not guarding, and it worked like 85% of the time. So the moves they made for the cornerback room should massively pay off. Christian Fulton signing alone in free agency can allow Trent McDuffie to kick inside and play there whenever. That's where he's first team All-Pro elite, but then they also drafted Noel Williams, another outside corner. We also can't forget that they drafted Dane Brugler's linebacker 4 in the 5th round and Jeffrey Bassa, who is a safety turned coverage linebacker donning the green dot as Oregon's Mike linebacker last year. That adds depth in the linebacker room and an additional coverage guy. So the coverage as a whole should be quite a bit better, and that'll only help the defensive line, who added a defensive tackle with the best pass rush win rate among all interior defensive linemen, Omar Norman-Lott, as well as a freak athlete in defensive end Ashton Gelati, who had back-to-back seasons of nearly 60 pressures. Then, of course, Chris Jones is going to anchor the entire line. Omenihu is back and pissed off on a one-year prove-it deal, and then you have Mike Dana and also especially George Karlaftis also wreaking havoc on top of that. I think it's safe to say that the combination of moves on defense alone in free agency and the draft could very well have them looking much more closely to their 2023 selves when L'Jarius Sneed had a career year and McDuffie was dominating in the slot. In case you forgot, they were top 5 in nearly every category, and the pass rush was noticeably more effective as well, racking up 57 sacks in 2023 compared to only 39 last season. Obviously, we are also hoping for a more explosive offense on top of that, but I think some of that is remedied if Jalen Moore is just a serviceable level left tackle, then Rice and Hollywood stay healthy this year. It's a bonus if Pacheco looks closer to his usual self after coming back from that broken ankle. That, with the addition of Jalen Royals in the wide receiver room and running back Brashard Smith, who is one of the best pass-catching backs in this entire draft, I really do like the Chiefs' odds of not only winning the AFC West once again, but also making yet another deep playoff run. There's factors we can never control or predict, like a rookie taken as a quote-unquote valuable pick completely being a bust, though again, we're not really going to know that for a couple of years, or, like last year, extremely bad luck with injuries. The process all starts now, this weekend actually, as the Chiefs kick off their 3-day rookie minicamp May 3rd through May 5th. This is a time where the Chiefs rookie draftees, undrafted free agents that they signed, and prospects they invited to rookie training camp will all basically be drinking through a fire hose via meetings and practices in an attempt to help them get ready for mandatory minicamp in June when the vets arrive. For those getting invited to rookie minicamp, the standouts could be offered a contract as the Chiefs look to finish up building out that 90-man roster. I'm not sure where exactly the roster count is at, but it has to be pretty close to full. Before the draft, they had around 16 open slots, but since then they drafted 7 players and signed several undrafted free agents on top of that. Anyway, after rookie minicamp, OTAs continue. These are still voluntary and no live contact is allowed, but many players will attend in some capacity as they begin to ramp things up prior to mandatory minicamp that takes place from June 17th to June 19th. And from there, the NFL summer drought hits for roughly 6 weeks until the start of training camp at the end of July. And over these next handful of months, the roster still can change. They will shuffle players around here and there as injuries hit. Some could simply get waived to make room for somebody else that they might like. And then some veteran free agents could still get added later, maybe prior to or during training camp itself. And just like clockwork, the Chiefs made a bunch of moves at about 5:45 p.m. today on April 30th. They released a couple veterans, Anthony Ferkser and Sean Bradley. Then they waived Baylor Cupp, McCade Mattire, Jason Taylor, and they received an international exemption for offensive tackle Jason Chu Godric. He has been the 17th player, the international pathway player on the Chiefs practice squad for 2 to 3 years now, and that's pretty cool to see him back on another year, just kind of growing and developing, learning the system. Will he ever get a lot of playing time in the NFL? I have no idea, but he's back for another year. More moves like this will definitely be happening soon. Anyway, I'm about to do my annual way too early 53-man roster projection this week. It'll be kind of fun because we'll then compare it to the actual 53-man roster after cutdowns happen near the end of August. But hey, make sure to let me know your thoughts on how the Chiefs roster is shaping up after free agency as well as the draft. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?